Welcome to the 70th episode of the GameFor Podcast. In this episode, we'll talk about the hopeful return of tabletop gaming conventions. I'm Adam.
And I'm Matt.
And this is the GameFor Podcast. GameFor is a platform to help connect tabletop gamers and to help you get more out of your tabletop gaming. Matt and I are part of a software development and design company called MilkCan, and because most of the folks at MilkCan love tabletop games, we developed the GameFor app and launched it in early 2018. We launched this companion podcast in June 2019 to help tabletop gamers get more enjoyment out of their hobby. Due to the COVID-19 global pandemic, we hibernated the GameFor app in July of 2020 and plan to bring back a retooled version of the app for Android, iOS, and web when gaming in person is safer. Until then, we'll keep bringing you this podcast to help you get more out of your tabletop gaming. To the more eagle-eared...
Eagle-eared is that a thing?
I don't know if eagle-eared is a thing. Rabbit-eared, maybe, sure. To the more rabbit-eared listeners here of the podcast, you'll probably notice that something sounds slightly different. We're recording remotely. We're each recording from home because we're still working in a hybrid state. There's times when we're in the office and there's times when we're not. And just this week's scheduling just did not work out. We had several times scheduled when we thought we were going to record, and then just meetings and clients and stuff. So we are recording from home. Just because it worked out better that way. So we haven't done this in a while. As I was looking at the software that we use to record from home, it's a piece of software. It's a website called Zencaster. Last time that we did this was episode 54, and we're on 70. So we've been recording from the office now for a while. But anyway, besides us and our schedules, what else has been going on? Matt, what have you been doing hobby-wise?
Oh, I actually have a bit of stuff. Let's see. I mailed out a big box of prints that I've been doing for Lee Gaddis over at Gaddis Gaming.
3D prints and stuff?
Yeah, a bunch of 3D prints for some new stuff that I believe he's going to be starting at Adepticon. There's some stuff that's Adepticon. Some stuff might be Kickstarter stuff as well. Yeah, no, for like the next Kickstarters. Nice. And some orders and stuff like that. But yeah, he's got some stuff that's going to be sent to a painter and all that fun stuff. But yeah, we got that stuff done. It was I think I had like half of it done pre-heart attack, and then yeah, I finally got back to it this last week and made it to the post office. So starting to,
because you hadn't been really doing much in the way of printing recently.
No, and then it was kind of that big monster of stuff gonna be all messed up downstairs, and because they're gonna be fussy because I haven't given them enough attention lately. So yeah, so the resin printers, you mean? Yeah, the resin printers seem like
your family or anything like that.
Yeah, no, but well, they think it. Well, yeah, they cost enough. I don't know. But yeah, they seem to be behaving right now. Knock on wood. But yeah, so I've got the resin going, and then started work on the filament last night. Hoping to do some test prints today. So should be back and up and running by this weekend. I'm hoping so, which will be nice. Cool. Yeah. Let's see. What else did I do? Ran through the campaign for Delta Green. Or I guess it would be more of a one-shot. So Delta Green is based kind of on Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But
it's an RPG, right?
Yeah, it's got a little bit of change and stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really like the dice mechanic. It's all like basically all D100 based. For like checks and everything else. So yeah, it was actually pretty neat. We did the one Last Things Last, which is at the end of like the quick start guide, I believe. So pretty available for anyone that wants to try it out.
And Delta Green is isn't it almost like a secret military organization that
kind of like
Cthulhu or something like that, or
right? Yeah, kind of like Cthulhu and any kind of like paranormal X-Files-y type thing, type stuff. So yeah,
that's very cool.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I did not get us killed, even though I was definitely
trying hard.
Yeah, my guy was very adventurous and stuff, and kind of I said he was kind of based on like the Bill Paxton of Aliens. So very gruff, but at the same time, I was very pessimistic. So I was pretty sure we were all going to die a lot of times.
Sure.
Yeah, but but no,
Nice.
I didn't need a 12-year-old girl to lead us out of it. Or I think she was 12.
Probably for the best. Yeah.
How old was she in that?
Newt?
Yeah.
Maybe younger than 12. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not sure.
Let's see what else. Oh, I assembled that 40K train I talked about last time, so that's all assembled and ready to prime. Yeah, but I'll probably wait till warm weather. It's just not fun to prime large pieces inside.
Yeah, I agree. I have a tendency to do terrain. Like I'll prime miniatures all winter long with my airbrush and stuff like that. But bigger pieces of terrain, like a small little piece of scatter terrain, also not a problem. But bigger pieces of terrain, I generally, it's just takes forever kind of do with the airbrush to some degree. Plus, and I don't know if this is also something you've come across too, but spray can just seems to stick to plastic kits better. And since terrain has a tendency to take a little bit more rough and tumble than you do with your miniatures, I want to have better paint stuck to it. You know what I mean? Primer. So
yeah, that's kind of
I do the same thing.
It just seems more like that's what terrain is supposed to be.
Yeah, like if it's something scratch built, I don't know that the rattle can necessarily does a. Like, it depends on what you scratch build out of. If you scratch build out of plastic, well, then, yeah, I would stick with the rattle can. But if you're scratch building stuff out of foam core or wood or things like that, I don't know that the rattle can necessarily has the benefit of sticking any better than airbrush. But it also does then, you cover a lot faster if you use the rattle can. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else? Oh, and I got back to painting my Blood Bowl Black Orc team. So
nice. Cool. How did that go? Did you... do a lot of dry brushing and stuff like that? They have a lot of armor, don't they?
Yeah, they've got it's a lot of piecemeal stuff. So there's a lot of like you start painting and then you go, oh, that's what that's supposed to be. I think there was one where I'm like, oh, I thought that was bandages, but no, that is his foot. So I'm gonna have to paint that. But yeah, I had done contrast on their skin. And I really just did not like how it came out, but I wasn't sure how to fix it because I really liked everything else I had painted so far. So it wasn't like I wanted to strip.
Right.
So I figured out kind of the lighter green that I liked and started doing with a small makeup brush, some light dry brushing. And I think there's like one that isn't really I'm not in love with, but the other ones all kind of like really kind of came out a lot better. So I'm okay with the 1 out of 6 not being great. It's still better than it was. So
yeah.
And then I was painting up some of the armor. And then I'm planning on kind of darkening that, to make it really kind of that black look. But yeah.
Nice. Cool.
But that's it.
Yeah. Let's see. What did I do? So I've been still painting Skaven on Twitch. I had originally done the 11 clan rats and finished those guys up, and then I started working on the leader, which is the Grey Seer, and he's kind of a wizard sort of rat in a cloak. He's got a staff and he's waving his hands around and stuff. And he is nearly done. His base is not done. I usually do the bases not on Twitch, but everything else he's pretty close. And then I started working this most recent stream, which was Monday night. Continued to work on the Warlock Engineer, who is this Skaven with this big weird tank on his back, this big metallic tank on his back, and then he's got like a gun that's attached by hoses to the tank, and he can evidently shoot people and stuff.
Nice.
I wanted the tank to be. I wanted it to look like it was like a bronze or like copper almost type tank, and I wanted it to have like a patina, like a verdigris, like when you see like a statue and it starts to kind of turn that green color. Yeah. So I was messing around with that on Monday night. I mixed up the color that I was looking for and added some medium to it and added some water to it, and then just used it kind of as a bad wash with the idea that it would, kind of coffee stain a little bit.
Streak out a little bit.
Also, yeah. But it turned out pretty decent. It's subtle, but it's nice.
Is that kind of like the same? I know you had done a video years ago on and you did like a statue or something. Did you? Is
Yeah.
that kind of the same technique, or was it something like a
It
new?
it is, except that it when I did the statue, one of the important things you want to add to it to really make it like coffee stain, excuse me, is you have to add a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of rubbing alcohol, isopropyl, whatever, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I didn't have any at my desk, so I just kind of was winging it. I didn't even think of it at the time when I started the stream, and I'm like, do I even have any? I didn't think about that until I was already partway through the stream.
It's
So
hard to get that stuff right now. Oh, it's
yeah, it is.
easier
That's the
now.
other thing too.
About a year ago,
a
it
bit
was
easier
really
than
hard.
it was. Yeah. But it's just a situation where, because it's small enough, like if I was going to do an entire statue, I would have been like, all right, well, I'm going to hold off on this until I can find some alcohol. But because this little backpack on this little tiny rat guy is kind of small, it wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, bigger spaces, I would definitely use the alcohol. So yeah, that video was just called "How to Paint a Bronze Statue," I think, or something like that on my channel years ago. Yeah, it's probably easily 8 years old. And then I've got 2 more models from that Skaven group that I'm going to continue to work on soon. The Warp Fire Thrower, who is actually a team of 2 rats. One guy's holding the big tank, and the other guy's holding kind of like a hose, kind of attached to a gun, sort of thing. It's kind of like a flamethrower. And then the other is the Storm Fiend, who is this big honking kind of robot enhanced Skaven. He's just massive in comparison to everybody else. So that'll be probably one of the last things I do. And then I will move on to my next project, which will be on Twitch, will be probably those Corn Bloodbound guys.
Oh, yep.
That they came in the original starter box for Age of Sigmar 1.0. So yeah, those guys just need to get primed and ready to go. But I'm still at least a ways away because the Storm Fiend's going to take some time. He's got a lot of stuff going on.
Nice.
But then this weekend, off stream, I actually finished the basing on the clan rats that I had painted on stream. So like I said, there's like 11 of those guys. And I went through and, put a certain color brown on all their bases, and then you have to let that dry. And then you go back and throw wash on all the bases, and you have to let that dry. So that's why it's not particularly interesting to do on stream, because there's a lot of like downtime. And then dry brush all the bases and then paint all the rims. And so it's kind of dull. But I got that finished this weekend. And also I had this little piece of like resin terrain from Games Workshop. It's just like a little broken wall kind of thing.
Okay.
That I think came out sometime in like 5th edition or something. And I don't know when or where I got it, but it's been sitting on my desk primed for, I don't know, a couple of years now. It's just, I've just been moving it around. It's real small. It's like 6 inches long. It's just this little skinny, tiny little wall.
Okay.
It's just a nice little thing to, post up a couple of models behind. And it's just been sitting there, and I was like waiting for wash to dry on those bases. And I was just like, I'm going to finish this thing up. And I just did a lot of wash to it and some contrast and some simple stuff like that. And then after that was all dried, then I just hit it with the makeup brush and did some like light gray dry brush over it. And it was super simple and fast. It's one of those things that it's been sitting there for 2 years and it took me 20 minutes to finish,
Yeah.
So,
So
but it turned out fun.
One less thing of gray shame.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's that. So that was good. And so I got that done. And then I've got some 3D printed models, some resin 3D printed models that I got off of Etsy. And I am getting them ready for priming because they're going to be showing up in the next game that Vince and I are doing with our game company.
Nice.
So you're gonna see some photos of them in the rules in there. We're also having a bunch of artwork done as well, but those images will show up, and then like we did with the last game, we're going to work with the artistsempire.com again. This guy named Scott, and he does digital like overpainting from photos. You take photos of your miniatures on a white background, and then you send them to him, and then he does all this fancy kind of Photoshoppery to them, and then makes it look like all kinds of cool stuff is going on in the background and stuff.
Yeah,
and
that's amazing what he can do.
Yeah, no, the stuff he did for Reign in Hell for our last game was crazy, so good. So we're gonna have him do some stuff for this one too. So I just gone on to Etsy and just gotten a bunch of cool models that are going to work with our theme, so that'll be cool. And then the only thing is that for about the last month now, maybe it's been a month. It's been 3 weeks, or has it been a month? I think it's been a month. I've been streaming on Saturday nights, but not painting. I've been streaming video games. For the first couple of them I did, I was playing Battlefield 2042, which is fine, but it's it's kind of repetitive a little bit and everything like that. So the last 2 Saturdays now I've been streaming this PC game called Valheim, where you play like a Viking Valheim, I guess, I don't know if this is Viking lore specifically or if this is something made up for the game, but Valheim is kind of a purgatory between, our world and Valhalla. You don't necessarily go straight to Valhalla every time. You start out, and it's a survival game. You start out and you're basically just running around in like shorts for the most part, and then you pick up a bunch of sticks and stones and you make an axe and you start cutting down trees and you build yourself a house, and then goblins attack once in a while and stuff like that. And that's been a lot of fun. I'll play that for about usually 3 to 4 hours, and people are kind of watching and just kind of chatting and stuff. And it's pretty chill. That's one of the things too. Whereas Battlefield 2042 is not chill, whereas this game is pretty chill. So, but yeah, so I'll probably keep doing that on Saturdays for at least a while. Not really going anywhere until March. March is going to be kind of getting busy, and we're kind of going to talk about that today here. So there's that, just about going back into conventions and such. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. That's nice. That's my thing.
Yay. Yeah. Sweet.
As far as the stuff for the GameFor app, we are continuing along on working on kind of the next release version, which, like we've said in the past, is going to be more modular this time. So certain parts are going to come out at certain times, and we've been having some more meetings about stuff as well, and also prepping for the Reno trade show, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well.
Yeah.
What other stuff's been going on with the app?
Let's see. We're working on Super Secret Project 1. And I know we talked about getting the survey out, but yeah, it's side stuff's been, or main stuff. I guess this is side stuff, has been crazy.
Yeah, this is the side stuff, technically, yes.
Yeah, so that stuff, the stuff that pays the bills, has been kind of crazy the last couple of weeks for myself. So I have not gotten a chance to look at that. But hopefully, yeah, we'll get that still going. It's still the plan, and we're working on that. So
yeah, and when we get the survey stuff set up, we'll not only send it out to people on our mailing list and all that stuff, but we'll also let you folks know about it here too as well.
Yeah, we won't like
social. We'll do it.
We'll open it up for like an hour or something crazy like that.
That'd be the worst survey ever. Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree.
You have 5 minutes to do this, and it self-destructs.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, cool. All right. So, some time ago, episode 48, I looked it up. We started talking about, we did an episode about returning to in-person tabletop gaming. Yeah. And we talked about, we mentioned conventions at the time. But we also talked about going back and playing at, other things like the store or your friend's house and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
We just talked about,
conventions,
those things because
very abstract at the time, I think.
Well, yeah, it was March. It was not quite a year ago, but it was March of 2021. And of course, by March of 2021, back in the rose-colored glasses days of March of 2021, we were like, oh no, this is going to be better. Everything's going to be good by summer. We're going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Yeah. Well, now it's February, and we're the numbers are going down. We've got a definite numbers down going to, like, as of right now, knock on wood. To be frank, I have not looked this morning, but as of yesterday, the numbers were plummeting, which is good because we needed some plummeting going on. Right. And again, I'm talking here in the United States. It might be happening differently in other parts of the world. But we wanted to focus more on conventions this time for a couple of different reasons. Number one is we're starting to go back to conventions. I was planning on going to the Las Vegas Open at the end of January. Like I bought my tickets and the whole deal back in June of 2021, and I was planning on going, and I figured, well, by that time things will be way better. Well, that, again, like I said, didn't actually happen. So about a couple weeks out, I just decided, I'm not going to do that. I don't feel particularly good about it. So that's probably number one. If we're going to talk about returning to in-person tabletop gaming, understand when you don't think it feels safe, and then just be like, nope, that's totally cool. Just because maybe like I had a plane ticket and I had a hotel and stuff like that. Hotel, it's easy enough as long as you call within 24 hours before you're supposed to be there. Right. They'll be like, okay, cool. But plane ticket thing, they don't refund the money, but they give you a credit, which you can use on another flight. So I then booked a flight for Washington, D.C. for the Nova Open, which will happen in theory at end of August. So, yeah, but anyway, we're going, God willing and the creek don't rise, to the GAMA Expo, the Game Manufacturers Association Expo trade show in Reno, Nevada. And that is mid-March, the 14th to the 18th of March.
Yep.
Okay. And then we're going to Adepticon towards the end part of March. So we'll be back for like a week and then boom, then Adepticon.
Right.
And both of them have kind of their own things going on as far as like requirements and all that kind of stuff. Conventions are still obviously going to keep taking a lot of precautions for probably a good long time. Masks will probably be standard for, again, a good long time. They're not fun. I get it. But we were just talking about this yesterday. The women's hockey, women's Canadian hockey team, Olympic hockey team won. I forget against who. It wasn't against the Americans, I don't think. But
I think it was ROC, our Russian Olympic Confederation or whatever it is, because they can't be from Russia. I don't really understand how that is. I understand what led to that happening, but I don't understand how that got around the rule.
But the team beat the Russians while wearing KN95 masks or something like that. They were like wearing
something like that.
Yeah, or 6-1, I think it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the whole concept of like, well, I can't breathe with a mask. Well, like, these ladies played an entire game of hockey. So anyway,
I'm doing my cardiac rehab with a mask on, running on a treadmill and stuff like that. So post heart attack, couple of weeks. There's older people that are like in their 70s. There's like one guy in his 80s running with masks on. So, if you're wearing it in the grocery store, well, it might not make sense all the time. Like we were talking about the Reno stuff, like everybody has to be vaccinated and stuff, but we're still wearing masks for certain places. And the rules, I will admit, don't always make sense, but they are whatever it makes sense to somebody, and sometimes it's because of like 3 layers of different rules have all been collected and put at one time.
Exactly. So, sometimes it's the county, sometimes it's the facility. They've got their own
facility and the owner group. Yeah. So, and sometimes they contradict and they don't make sense, but it's so much easier just if everyone just kind of like, oh, that's what you're doing. Okay, cool. I'll do that. And then if you want to do more, do that. And if you don't feel comfortable, don't go. But let's just,
And Adepticon is doing the same thing as far as proof of vaccination as well. So that's important as well.
Yeah.
So when you're preparing for this convention that you might be planning on attending to, whether it's a little local convention, whether it's a bigger, regional convention, something like that, the first thing that you're going to want to do before you do anything, before you pack your bags, before you, figure out which T-shirts you're going to wear at the convention, you want to find out what precautions the convention will and will not be following, and know that, and also understand that it will change probably. So, understand, like, if it's, let's say it's 3 months out and you're interested in going, find out what they're doing, and then go, okay. And then a week before, go back to the website and check again, because things may have changed. Most gaming conventions are being very, very specific on their websites and saying, this is the rules that we are following and why. The such and such convention center says this, and the county says this, and the state says this, and so we're doing this, this, and this, and this. Right. And then, like I said, keep checking back as the convention grows closer, because the city, county, whatever of the convention center may have changed.
The magical date might have changed, some number changed, or who knows?
I mean, and let's be perfectly honest, maybe it got better. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they'll be like, okay, a week before, they're like, if you show up and you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask if you don't want to. That'd be great to know.
No shirt, no shoes.
That seems unlikely, but maybe. I mean, with cosplay, I have certainly seen people walk around back in the old times. I used to see people walk around at Gen Con with no shirt, no shoes on because they were cosplaying.
Oh,
but then I would also see somebody who was like cosplaying with no shirt, but then they were wearing like tennis shoes, and I'm like, I don't remember Conan wearing tennis shoes, but whatever, that's fine. So, you have those things to figure out, and you need to follow it's a good idea to try to follow the convention on social media and stuff like that, or wherever that they stay the most updated, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or whatever, or if they got a website that they update pretty frequently. I mean, right now, like, we've been to plenty of small, tiny conventions that don't update their websites very much. Frankly, I run one. You know what I mean? Like the Tabletop Minions Expo that I've run in the
Mhm.
past, I don't necessarily update the website as much as I probably ought to. These days, though, when conventions want people to actually show up, they're being a lot more proactive. I've noticed, at least on the, hey, this is what has to happen if we want to have this convention go. So
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
right. Another thing to prepare for your next convention is that if you don't feel well, don't go. Full stop. Just seriously, like if it's a couple days before or the day before or whatever, and you're like, I just don't. I got a bit of a cold. Maybe it's not a cold. Maybe it's allergies. Maybe it's just a regular cold. Maybe it's something else.
Mhm.
If you have access to a quick test, which I know is difficult right now to find those things, which is a little crazy.
Right. Well, and not always accurate either.
True. That's
But they
true
at least
as well.
give you some indication.
Yeah, they do. From what I understand, the quick tests, at least the ones that I've seen in the past, if it says positive, then it's definitely positive. But if it says negative, it still might be positive, which is, sort of helpful. Not that helpful. It depends on, I don't know. Again, not a doctor, but that's what I've heard is that if it's positive, it's not ever wrong. But if it's negative, it might be wrong. So, and it kind of depends, I guess, on where you are within the whole infection timeline and blah, blah, blah. I'm not like I said, not a medical professional. I'm not even an actual uncle. So,
you are.
Yeah, but if you just
this.
if you don't feel well, just don't go. It's probably for the best.
Yeah.
So that's something else to prepare. Also, definitely, like if they require proof of vaccination, you bring your Vax card. You don't want to be like, oh yeah, no, I am vaccinated. I just forgot to bring it. That's
in
not
my other
gonna fly in those
jacket,
situations.
yeah.
It's in my other legs. The sometimes a photo is good enough. You can sometimes just show them a photo on your phone, but again, check with the convention because sometimes they're like, no, you got to bring it. You might be good at Photoshop, and so which honestly wouldn't be that hard, I suppose. But really, it is a situation of make sure you're prepared and don't. Just make sure you've got your stuff with you. If they're requiring proof of vaccination, then you're going to need to bring proof of vaccination. That's kind of the way it works. You can yell and scream at the front desk, but you don't, because you shouldn't. It's if you knew about it ahead of time, just really, that's I think important as well, just to understand and to hold on to your card, obviously, and keep it in some sort of thing. You're not supposed to laminate them, right?
Right.
Yeah. Why is that? Is
so
it because
that you
of
can get your free pizza on the 10th booster?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's so that they can keep it updated. But I think it's I don't know if there's actually because it's easier to do to make sure that it's not counterfeit or something. But I don't think any no government documentation can be laminated as far as I know, because your social security card, mine looks like it's I picked it out
or something.
Oh, it's been to the wash multiple times, but yeah, it looks like it's hanging on by its last threads. Or it was found in a gutter, but they're don't laminate it. And okay, they're and don't lose it.
Well,
and
all right, yeah. Don't carry it on you all the time, except when you need it, but don't lose it. Right. Don't put it any place important, but don't laminate it. Yeah, no, and it's. I've always been confused, especially by I can understand with the, I guess with the vaccination card, because they're going to be keeping, continuing to add stuff to it if you laminate it and that kind of stuff. But with I always thought it was odd with the Social Security card.
Yeah, because I don't think there's
Social Security card here in the United States seems like it's it seems like it's from a different time, because it I swear to God, mine is perforated around the edges.
Yeah,
it's just you can't just get my driver's license is plastic and fancy and got holograms on it and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. I think it plays a song if you put it in the right machine. And I'm just I don't know why this isn't anyway. That's a different episode. Not really, but you know what I'm saying. So other stuff that you should also definitely make sure to bring your card if they're making a requirement, and a lot of them are, and I know that there are people out there who are. I know there are people out there who have some sort of thing against vaccines in general, and that's one thing. And there are other people who can't get the vaccines due to being allergic to them, and this and that and the other thing. But it is a situation that we're in right now. It's a very odd situation that we've been in for the last several years. And this is just, I think, the way that, especially if we want to keep having conventions and if these conventions want to be able to survive, it's right now this situation the way it has to be. So, there are probably, I would be very surprised if there weren't some conventions out there that weren't run by people who think that maybe this whole mask thing is silly, or maybe this vaccination thing is maybe whatever. But they also know if they want to run this convention, the convention center says this, and the county says this, and the state says this, and whatever. And so they're like, well, if I want to keep this going, I have to do this thing.
Right.
Maybe I don't necessarily agree with. I mean, I agree with it, but you're there. I'm sure there's probably some people out there who run conventions who maybe don't see the benefit to this, but know that they can't do it without following the rules. Just like they couldn't, sell food at the convention without having some sort of particular license from the health department of the county or whatever the deal is. I mean, there's all kinds of rules you have to follow in a society, and that's where we're at right now. So,
yep.
So beyond that, though, what other things do you want to bring to a convention that are not the normal things that you bring to a convention? Like, I've got a video on my channel years and years ago about things to bring to a gaming convention, and deodorant, that's important. Clean clothes, gum, snacks, this and that, and other thing. There's lots of things like that, but we're still talking about kind of the new and interesting things that you end up having to bring to conventions that we didn't used to have to do.
Yeah, like hand sanitizer. Oh yeah, masks. Yeah. Masks are a good one.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's best to bring a bunch. I have switched mostly away. Early on I was using a cloth mask, and now I use the surgical masks because they're, I don't know, they're I think they're probably a little bit better than the cloth masks. I don't know the total efficacy and all that kind of stuff, but the N95s and the KN95s are still kind of hard to find. If I could find those easily, like at the store, I would just go pick those up probably and use them. But for right now, the surgical masks. But the trick is you shouldn't use a surgical mask for hours and hours and hours too much. If you can help it, they want you to swap them. So if you're going to a convention, it's not a bad idea to bring a bunch of them and swap them at least a couple times a day if you can. And so, another thing that's also important, I found this, I went to Gen Con this past year. Gen Con 2021 was not in August like it normally is. It was instead in mid-September, but it was still in the same place and all that stuff. Had about half the people show up, and I've kind of talked a little bit about that. But one thing I found about walking around in, September in Indianapolis is not nearly as warm as August in Indianapolis, but still, it's not cool. I found that the little elasticy straps over time during each day would start to kind of wear on the backside of my ears, and it would start to get kind of painful. So if you can find some sort of ear guard, I know you were 3D printing ear guards back in the early days of the pandemic.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's just basically like a plastic doohickey that goes behind your head, and instead of hooking the things on your ears, you're hooking them on the plastic doohickey.
Yep. Yeah. And I did mine out of TPU, which is more rubbery, so that they're kind of soft. I just used it something last week. I think it was like a hockey tournament or something. We had to wear them, but they make your ears not hurt, which is nice.
Right. Yeah. And since you'll be wearing them for a long time, like maybe you may know this if you work someplace where you have to wear a mask all day already, and you'll be like, I've been doing that for a long time. But if you just wear a mask, like when you go into stores and when you go to like certain places once in a while, after hours of being at a convention, having a good time, you'll start to notice it on the backside of your ears. And so it's figuring out something, whether it's, I've seen cloth ones, I've seen 3D printed ones, and there's all kinds of different things out there, but some sort of, the surgical mask elastic is nice because it's not so thick, so it doesn't make your ears kind of stick out sometimes. But on the other hand, it can also start to kind of wear on the backside of your ears and stuff. And so there's that too, especially because I wear glasses. So then, I think it's a mixture of those two things together.
Oh, mine definitely hurt. They get raw behind there. So,
and then you mentioned hand sanitizer as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think hand sanitizer, like now that it seems to be like easier to port around, like, now you can get like little tiny bottles where I don't remember seeing little tiny bottles before, but maybe they were. I just didn't. Like even years after COVID-19 is done, like I think the hand sanitizer and washing your hands is probably something that should just keep carrying over. So,
Oh yeah. I mean, and in the early days of the pandemic, people were like, "Oh, you got to wash your hands constantly, and you got to don't ever touch your face ever again, and all this stuff, and hand sanitizer all over." And we've discovered over time that that's not the main vector. That the way that the stuff gets around, it's really much more about
right.
the aerosol kind of nature of it. Like I had friends who would like get groceries delivered in the early days of the pandemic, and then let them sit in their garage like overnight or whatever, so that
Right.
the
And
bugs would
like
die
wipe
and
them
stuff.
down and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And as it turns out, that's not really that important as it, I mean, it's still not great, but the real point is that even before the pandemic, con crud was a thing. Like going to a convention and coming home sick was like it had a name, con crud. That's what it's called, and it was pretty
Yeah.
standard. You would go to a convention and you would come back after talking to people and shaking hands with people and touching doorknobs and doing all this stuff, and then you would be like, "Now I have a terrible cold for like a week after I get the convention, or worse, sometimes flu." So hand sanitizer at the very least, or something like that, is very useful for helping to not transfer, those types of viruses and such, so that it keeps you. I mean, again, even beyond COVID, just coming back from a convention and not being knocked out, and having a runny nose for like a week or so afterwards
Mm-hmm.
is a definite benefit. There's depending on the size of the convention you go to, there can be something from hundreds of people to thousands and thousands of people. And so it's always been kind of a bit of a, for lack of a better term, a disease vector. And so it's still a good idea to think about that kind of hand sanitizer stuff and whatnot. I would say also you've got to bring a good attitude.
Mm.
I mean, we've all been doing this long enough that it seems like it should be a thing that we understand. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like in the early days, you're like, well, this isn't the way the world is supposed to work. I get to go to conventions and stores and things and walk around. And I get that. And I would love for that to go back to the way it is. And I think it eventually will. It may take a good long time, but I
Yeah,
think we'll get there,
maybe.
hopefully.
And maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe we need to give up.
Yeah,
Like
no,
there's some weird things like I'll see on like old like not even old, but like movies from a few years ago, and you're like, oh, weird. Like that'd be really weird if that happened today, you know?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. You'll watch a movie like these days that came out even like 5 years ago, and you're like, all those people are standing real close to each other, and no one's wearing a mask. It's weird, you know what I
And
mean?
they're
And yeah,
someone that person just coughed on them, and they
right, yeah, exactly. So I mean, we're in a situation where now we've been doing this long enough that this should be something where we have a bit of a better understanding that these things are going to be like this at least for a while. And so I guess the point is that, to completely throw a hissy fit, at a convention because, someone told you, hey, you got your mask is down below your nose again there, sir, or
right.
whatever. Like that's not just put your mask up. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like if it was a situation where, you know, I don't know. The thing to understand is that these conventions are fun. These conventions are a luxury, frankly. This is not a place that you have to go to work and then you get hassled about doing this or that or the other thing or whatever. This is a thing that you chose to go to knowing full well you were supposed to wear a mask. And if you go there and decide, well, I'm going to just not wear a mask, things are going to go poorly. Like there were some guys, first day of Gen Con, who
Mhm.
showed up, bought tickets to Gen Con, not cheap. Like a 1-day ticket, I think is still, I think $50 or something crazy like that. And these 4 guys bought 50, tickets the first day and started walking around with no masks. And people in security told them to cut it out, and they had to put masks on. And they started a scene on purpose, and then got
Mhm.
thrown out. So there you go, boom. Like that's the way it works. So I don't know. It's just, if you're going to a convention to have a good time, I understand that wearing a mask and all that kind of stuff is not necessarily fun. But the other option is to like do what I did with the LVO this year and just don't go. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I was like, I'm not sure. And for me, it wasn't like I didn't go to LVO because I didn't want to wear a mask. It was that I wasn't sure about getting on a plane and flying to Vegas and walking around a little bit. It's not like I was going to go walk around to Vegas and hang out on the strip, but still, it was going to be at the Rio, I think, this year, the LVO. And it's a, might have bumped into Penn and Teller. I don't know. Maybe I don't
Mm.
know if I think they're probably vaccinated. I assume. I don't know about
Probably.
Penn. Teller probably seems to be. Anyway,
He won't tell
it's
you
just
though.
yeah. He won't tell you. That's a good point. I mean, he would just show you the card, probably not talk.
Oh, yeah, he could.
Yeah.
Sleight of hand.
Except he would pull the card out of your ear,
right?
Like that, and he'd be like, "Hey, that'd be pretty cool." Yeah. Anyway, but so yeah, it's I don't know. I just think that we need to, if we want to start going back to conventions and things like that, we kind of have to have a good attitude about it. And,
right. There's nobody that's telling you to wear your mask because they are getting pleasure out of doing it and having fun doing it.
Right. There's no sadists out there that are like, no, you have to wear a mask. And you're like,
I mean, there might be, but
okay, there might be. It's a good point.
But it's probably not that. They're just as sick of it as you are, and just make it easier. What else?
Yeah, and then, well, I mean, we talked a little bit about this too, and we had this going on even because at the very beginning of the pandemic, we were actually at the Reno trade show, March of 2020. When things like the people were starting to talk about this and but so we were like trying to decide whether we were going to go to the pandemic, whether we were going to go to Reno.
We totally should have not done that.
I agree. Yeah. But we went to Reno and everything. And like I said, some manufacturers and stuff and some places had decided to pull out, but we went and everybody was walking around with hand sanitizer. Like people were trying not to shake hands. And like, I remember every elevator, I would push the elevator button with my elbow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that going on. So,
and elbow bumps.
Exactly. And that's the thing, the interactions, and it's still to this day, I will, you'll be at some sort of thing and someone will walk up, you'll both be wearing masks and someone will walk up and like reach out a hand to and it's just force of habit, handshake. Yeah. Hey, I haven't seen you in a while, handshake. Mm-hmm. And so, if you can, come up and say hi or whatever. And then, I don't know, maybe do an elbow, maybe do a fist bump or whatever. But if they put out their hand to make a handshake, and if you're not comfortable with it, then just give them the elbow, and then they'll be like, "Oh, okay, cool," and then they'll
and vice versa. If you put it on there, and selfies. Like you don't walk
up to somebody who you haven't seen in a long time and then be like, "Hey, can I get you a hug?" I mean, that's not necessarily where we're at right now, unfortunately. So I don't know, if you know them super super well, you could ask, I guess.
Like, hey, are we good to hug?
Yeah. But yeah, and you were saying selfies too, like that kind of thing, like, I don't know, that's it's going to take a little bit of a while, but understanding that different people have got different levels of
comfort,
good feelings about, comfort levels about different types of interactions is, I think, something important that we've got to pay attention to as well. But yeah. And then, exactly. Like planning ahead also in the realm of like, and this is maybe not so much with small regional conventions, but for the bigger ones, you've got to understand that some things will be maybe slightly better and some things might be slightly worse. So like, what I mean is like,
it might be harder to get it might be harder to get a ticket to Gen Con because they're selling less, but you have less of a crowd and you don't have backpacks taking you out every 5 minutes.
Exactly. Like Gen Con was, like I said, 35,000 people in 2021. In 2019, it was 72,000, which I think was its peak. Yeah, it was something huge. So they had about half the people show up. And honestly, being there, I felt like it was smaller than 35,000, but I could have been wrong. It was certainly quieter for sure. That was really nice in the dealer area. It was like someone just turned the volume down. And so that's really cool. But on the other hand, if you were like, oh, geez, I sure do want to get a ticket, and you wait till the last minute, they may be like, nope, we hit our limit because, we decided we had to lower the amount of people showing up. So that's something to take into consideration as well. Now, on the other hand, you might also have the prices on certain things might be reduced just because, like, I don't know. I haven't noticed much in the way of airlines prices being reduced.
But they've cut down flights, so that kind of as kind of demand went down, they also kind of brought down supply a little bit. So I think that's because like there was like we were trying to figure out when we're flying to and from Reno, and there was definitely a few flight times that were not there anymore. Because I didn't see any of the like the red eye and stuff, but. So like there's might be lower numbers, but there might be some deals. Hotels seem like they're pretty much open, but then they might not be doing like daily like maid service and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's the thing too. And the hotels will have their own kind of also rules about, masks and all that kind of stuff. So again, that's a thing to check out as well. The convention might have one thing, but the hotel might have another thing, or they might be the
Mm-hmm.
same, or who's to say? If you're having to look for like rideshare and such like that,
Yeah.
the what do you call it? The like Ubers and the Lyfts and things like that. Those you might have a harder time finding it. Also, I think the prices have been going up as well, so that's
Well,
something
and
to take into consideration.
one thing we found in Las Vegas, there's a lower amount of max people per car because they don't want anyone
Oh,
sitting with
sure.
the driver. At least at the time when I was there. I mean, like I said, it could change, but you might have to order more lifts for your group than you would normally, or upgrade to like I think it's the XL for Uber, and
Yeah, yeah.
maybe the same for Lyft. I don't remember, but
Hmm.
yeah, yep.
Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind as well. All of these things
Restaurants might
are,
not be open or might have limited staff and so more longer wait times or less seating. Um,
yeah, no, that's a good point too. We've been finding that even just locally here is
mhm,
that, there's restaurants that are like, well, we're not open on these days anymore. And this is, related to pandemic, but it's related to other things as well and everything, just like restaurants are having a hard time. And I'm sure hotels are having a hard time too, finding
mhm,
people to work in certain situations. So it's just, everything's a little squirrely, or maybe more than a little squirrely. You know what I mean? And,
mhm,
yeah, that's one of those things that we've kind of got to take into consideration when we want to go and start doing things kind of back the way that we used to. We have to understand that it's not going to be like the way it used to, very possibly for a while, or maybe for going forward. We
mhm,
were talking about this too, about how like in Asia, in the kind of Asian countries,
mhm,
if you don't feel well, you wear a mask because you don't want to get other people sick. And that's been going on
mhm.
for years and years and years and years. And I would really like it if people would start to do that here sometimes. Like maybe you're going to go to the
Yeah,
store and you got to get some
or
stuff
they
and
just
you've
stay
got a bit of
home.
a
Yeah.
cold. Well, I mean, yeah, if you think you might have COVID, yeah, then stay home or
Well, but I
whatever.
mean,
But
like
if you're
even
like,
that,
I'm not,
like I'm okay with people
yeah,
not sneezing on food at the
sure,
grocery
sure. But
store.
if you need to go, get something and stuff like that, and if you
Yeah,
feel
right.
not very well, wear a mask as opposed to just coming over and sneezing on the produce. That's, I think, a benefit. And if some people hopefully started to kind of take that into consideration, that might be better in the long term. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's one of those situations where we want to be able to go back to do the things that we used to do, and that's cool. But there's going to be some compromises and some things we're going to have to do to get back there, and that's just the way it works. So if this is a thing that you just cannot abide, well, then you're gonna probably have to figure out something else. I don't know. I would say start your own convention, but you know, good luck trying to find a place that allows you to have a convention but doesn't require specific health and safety things. You know what I mean? Like that's a tough thing to do.
Yeah, you got to
um
do like that fire island or whatever.
oh yeah, yeah, no, you go out in the international waters and have a game convention
Yeah.
and monkey knife fight. um that'd be that's a really really old Simpsons episode. But yeah, so I don't know, it you hate to say it is what it is, but that's a kind of descriptive right now for where we're at.
Right. Hey, at
Being able
least we
to,
don't have to use like Coke bottle caps for payment. It could be
right,
worse.
exactly. At least it's not, yeah, it's not the apocalypse, so that's good. We're talking about going to conventions and having to wear a mask and maybe show proof of vaccination. It's not the end of the world. You're still getting to go to a convention if you go through those things, and which are not that difficult. So yeah, the other side of the coin is that conventions stop happening. And the question is, do we want that to happen? There are going to be conventions that have already crashed and burned because they weren't able to have a show for a couple of years. You know what I mean?
Right.
The bigger conventions, or even not that much bigger convention, but the conventions that have just planned a little bit better or whatever, or maybe have had some deeper pockets or whatever, have been able to weather the storm to some degree. But if something happens or whatever, it's a tough one. So I would tell you, if you feel safe, definitely go back and start supporting your local gaming conventions or your regional gaming conventions or anything along those lines. But understand that there will be some differences to the way that it used to be, and hopefully we'll be able to sit across the table from each other and play some games and that kind of stuff. Maybe with some masks, but still, it will be. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. You got anything else?
Nothing for me. I think we covered it. We've beat the dead horse. Or
there you go. Exactly. All right. Well, let's hope it's still alive for now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the GameFor Podcast. If you've got questions or comments and you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment below. If you're listening via your favorite podcast player or just aren't into the whole YouTube comment section thing, then you can feel free to reach out to us via email at podcast@iamgamefor.com. You can also keep up to date with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And check out our website at www.iamgamefor.com. That is www.iamgamefor.com. Thanks.